Hi, my name is Paula Keaton, and I'm the director at Counseling and Psychological Services here at UNC Charlotte. I'm going to refer to our office from here on as CAPS. It's just an easier way to say Counseling and Psychological Services. So today's conversation is about supporting your student during this transition to college. And I want to acknowledge that the transition is not only for your student, but for you as well. So we'll be touching on that a little bit. First and foremost, I want to say congratulations to you, your student, your family, and remind you that this was the goal all along. You might be having a lot of mixed emotions right now, but remember, this was what you were moving toward, perhaps for 18 years. It's an exciting new time for your student, and perhaps an exciting new time for you as well. Your student's going to be meeting a lot of new people, encountering a lot of new ideas, and growing in ways that they couldn't even imagine. But along with the excitement is also some challenges. They're going to have a roommate. Maybe they've never even shared a room before. All kinds of new responsibilities that they have to tend to on their own. Some students might struggle with this. They might also be academically and intellectually challenged in ways they never have been before. This is their opportunity to really develop resilience and to get through those tough times, and often maybe with your support. And they're going to be in the position to make more choices independently than they ever have before. So, as I said, the transition is not only for your student, but for you too. And I want to honor the range of feelings and emotions you might be feeling as this transition approaches. You might be feeling really excited, but also really fearful. You might be feeling a lot of joy, but you also might be feeling some sadness. You might have confidence in the process, but also have uncertainty. And I think this is most evident right now as we work through the current pandemic. I think it's complicating the process a bit. I want to encourage you and your student to hang in there and engage in whatever ways you can. I want to note that even though you may have launched other students to college before, that this particular student will be unique and different than any other. And it's dependent upon a number of variables, whether this is your first student that you're launching, or maybe your last, or maybe it's the only one. It might have to do with their personal characteristics, ways in which they cope. It might depend upon your relationship with them. But no, even if you've done this before, this one's special. This one is different. Things are going to be changing for your student, and things are going to be changing for you as well. You might have more time on your hand than you ever have before, especially if this is your only or your last. You might be able to get the chance to engage in hobbies that you've put to the side. So it can be really exciting. But you also get to deal with the harder emotions. You might really miss them. I just want to honor that that's just evidence of how much you care. So one of the things I think is super important during this transition is maintenance of the relationship that you have with your student. Your relationship with your student is changing, but it is absolutely not over. We want you to stay connected with your student. You're such an important partner in this process. As I said, with your relationship, though, you're going to have to maybe shift more into a role of a coach, a mentor, or a guide. You're not going to be able to be there with them all the time to help them with those decisions. But talking through those things is going to be really, really important. One point of recommendation I always make to parents and caregivers during this transition time is right now, before the transition has fully started, is to sit down and come up with a communication agreement. What we know is if I asked your student, how often do you plan to stay connected with your family, with the parents, with your caregivers? I will get one answer. And then if I ask you, I'm likely going to get a different answer. So I encourage you right now to sit down with your student and talk about how you're going to stay connected. Your student may want to talk a couple times a week. You may want to talk every day. Find where the compromise is. This is not the time to win that kind of power struggle, but rather treat them as the emerging adult they are. And I think you'll come up with a plan that you can both really, really live with. Again, as I mentioned, the relationship is changing, but it's not over. You still get to let them know that they can lean on you when needed. You have a special power. You know what's going to help calm them down, and you know what's going to fire them up, or maybe even make them mad. We hope during this transition time that you really lean heavily into that skill of knowing how to soothe them, get them centered, and keep them grounded, even when they're making really difficult decisions. We're going to have to trust in this process that your parenting skills have really come through and that they're good decision makers. They're going to have to live with some of their consequences. So help them make those decisions rather than making those decisions for them. There are a lot of topics you might want to be talking about in advance as well. That might be responsible substance use. Some of your students won't use at all. Some of your students will use more than they've ever used before. So having this conversation, being connected about this and being open about this, I think is super important. It also includes responsible sexual behavior. We know that this can be a particularly challenging topic to talk about for some folks. I think it's important to talk about some of the risks, how folks can be responsible in their sexual decisions. Finances are another topic that I hope you're communicating about. Everything from does your student know how to use a credit card responsibly? Do they understand, without burdening them, but do they understand the financial situation and how school is being paid for? Again, financial stuff is super important. Unfortunately, it is a key to being able to access college right now. So if you're expecting your student to work, talk about how that money might be used. Is that just their spending money? Or is that going toward their academic expenses? Be willing to talk openly about this in non-judgmental ways. Hopefully, you're also reaffirming for them what wellness means. Do they know how to eat healthily? Are they willing to engage in healthy eating? Do they know how much sleep their body and their mind needs and how they can strategize to make sure that they are getting enough rest? Exercise. Do they have routines that they use now? How are they going to continue with that or even create new routines, perhaps through the use of UREC services? Hopefully you're talking about success and failure. It's easy to talk about success. It's really hard to talk about failure. Every one of your students will have varying degrees of failure. Some of your students perhaps have never received a C in a class or on a paper. Well, that's apt to happen. So how are they going to cope with that? How are they going to learn from their mistakes? How are you going to support them even in moments of perceived failure? And again, hopefully you're talking about expectations in general. How is this process going to go for the first semester? One of the things I really want to encourage you to do is to help them get connected at UNC Charlotte so that they can create a sense of home here as well as the sense of home they have with you. We're complicated, complex people, and I think we can create safety and comfort in more than one environment. For them to get deeply engaged at UNC Charlotte doesn't take anything away from their connection to your home and to you. What we know about adjustment and wellness is very, very rich in the research. We know that well-adjusted students are socially involved. They're involved in leadership, perhaps, or clubs. Social involvement doesn't mean having huge circles of friends. For some of your students, a small, tight-knit group of friends is all they need. For some of your students, what's going to be really fulfilling is to have a large group of people they know and they connect with. But help them engage in that process. Ask about their friendships. Who's key in their life right now? What are they learning about relationships? Also, students who are well-adjusted have lots of academic interests and curiosity. Please recognize that coming to college is a process of not only learning what you do want to do with life, but what you don't want to do with life. Your student may have said they wanted to be X for the rest of their life, and they get here and they find that the classes are not fulfilling. Be open to them having lots of other interests and perhaps paths that haven't even been talked about. But keep those lines of communication open so that you can learn about what they're learning about and learn how they're engaging in their coursework. What's really doing it for them right now? Maybe they're taking a psychology class as a foundational requirement, but suddenly it sparks a ton of interest. Learn about what they're learning. Signs of adjustment also is that a student is physically active. That doesn't mean they have to be a marathon runner, but they need to stay active, whether that's through structured classes or other workout routines, or if it's just a commitment to walk to classes as opposed to take the bus. Find out how they're being physically active and engaging in their overall wellness. Another sign of adjustment for students is developing new interests. I kind of referred to this earlier, but I'm going to re-emphasize it. Your students are going to be exposed to lots of new ideas, lots of new concepts. So they may develop lines of interest in things that you don't know about, but learn what's doing it for them. Learn about what they're learning. One thing that we know happens with transition is the topic of homesickness. And what this is, I think of this as a yearning for the familiar. This hits some students harder than others. Some students don't experience homesick much at all. Some experience it pretty severely. What I do know is that homesickness is hard to predict. Some of the students that parents would say, oh yeah, my kid is going to be so homesick, they do just fine. Some of you have a student who's been super independent, maybe even studied abroad in high school. They come to college and they really get hit hard with homesickness. So it's hard to predict. I want you to stay open and ask about it. Ask your student about it. Try not to use the word homesickness, but rather ask them how their transition's going. What's easy? What's hard? Be open to communicating about this. Some of you are going to experience that 3 a.m. phone call where your student says, I hate it here. School is stupid. I want to come home. We know that this is a sign of homesickness. My question to you is, what are you going to do when that phone call happens? Not all of you will get that phone call. I want you to, in advance, have a homesick response plan. In that moment at 3 a.m., I think your best bet is to help them calm down. How to center themselves. Please don't grab your car keys and start driving to Charlotte to pick them up. That could actually make things a little bit worse, if I'm honest with you. So help them calm down and then commit to talking about it in the light of day. Amazing perspectives can shift when the sun is up, but make sure you follow through with it. And recognize the basic cure for homesickness is connection, and it's connection where they're at. You know, a lot of students would feel so much better and so much secure if they were able to come home and be with the familiar. Let me tell you, coming back to school then is going to be even harder. Your student must see you. I encourage you to come visit them if that's possible, if it's within your means to do so. Allow them to show you what their new world is here at UNC Charlotte. So how do you know when it's becoming more than homesickness? We're going to talk about that a little bit more on the next slide. But basically, if your student's not acting like themselves, if it's not starting to back off after ample time for transition, then you know there might be a little bit more going on. Just know that if your student needs help, help is here for them. One of the key pieces here, though, is to help your student get connected and let them do the talking. I think a lot of parents and caregivers have become accustomed to making appointments for their students, to talking on their behalf to professionals. I think at this point in your student's development, it's important that they seek out the help that they need. You can help them with the language. You can give them the phone number or the website, but let them do the talking. At CAPS, what I know is that we actually will only accept appointments from the student themselves. So be their coach, but you can't do it for them. So when should you intervene? When does it really mean that something's going on beyond just homesickness? By the way, I say just homesickness. I mean no disrespect by that. Homesickness can feel really intense. I had homesickness when I came to college. Maybe you did too, without whatever life transition you did, military, college, or some other transition. It's very real. But again, I don't want to diminish that. But when it gets to be something more than that, you might see unusual changes in your students' behavior. Maybe they're sleeping too much. Maybe they're not sleeping at all. Maybe their appetite is just super diminished, or maybe they're eating all the time. Maybe they're starting to use substances when they haven't before, or their substance is getting even bigger. Maybe they're not able to focus on studying. Maybe their class attendance is becoming variable. Maybe they're being more needy than usual or more emotional than usual. Or if their self care has really declined. These are all signs that something significant might be going on. I think a big one, too, is this loss of interest in activities that were previously enjoyable. We know that this is one of the signs of depression. And in general, I think that um, folks need a little more assistance if that starts going on, and that's where CAPS comes in. Another sign you might see is isolation, or most significantly, when safety is a concern. If your student is talking about self-harm, they're having active suicidal thinking, they're having thinking about harming someone else. This is where you do get to intervene. You get to reach out to your student and help them access the resources that they need. We are more than happy to talk with you as parents and caregivers to help you figure out how to intervene with your student if this is something that you're struggling with personally. One of the biggest stressors as this day approaches, when you're going to drop your student off for college, is actual drop-off day. It can be super stressful for you. It can be super stressful for your student. There's so much excitement about this and so many mixed emotions, as I referenced earlier. And I think that this drop-off day is going to be even more stressful for some folks than in previous years, given the COVID-19 pandemic. In our world right now, things are a little less predictable. Some of you have experienced loss in your family or within your circle of community. So I think it's going to be harder to say goodbye than it ever has been before. I just want to acknowledge and honor that this year has some particular challenges with it. One of the things I really want to encourage you is another thing you can do in advance. So in advance of drop-off day, take some time, maybe go out to dinner, or when you're allowed to go out to dinner, but to sit down with your student and come up with a plan on how your student wants drop-off day to go. Do they want the whole family to load up and come and drop them off? Do they just want one of you there? But really listen to their lead, what they're needing as they make this final leap to college. The day is going to be pretty chaotic. There are lots of specific times to arrive and where you need to go and where not to go and how you move in. So to have some of the relational components and the plan components ready in advance is pretty key to making it through the day in a healthy and whole way. There is going to be a moment where there's an opportunity to say goodbye to your student. I think this is a really important moment. It's a big moment. It's monumental for some of your students. Again, they've been working at this and preparing for this for literally their entire life. So what do you want to convey to your student during that goodbye before you get in your car and drive back to your home? I recommend 3 things. Even for those of you who don't talk your emotions out loud very often, I'm going to challenge you to say these 3 things anyway, or some form of them. The first one is to unequivocally let your student know that you love them. So to be able to say, I love you. And then to be able to say, I am proud of you. And thirdly, you're going to do great. These three pieces give your student permission to make this leap into the next step of their development as an adult. So it's I love you, I'm proud of you, and you're going to do great. You might even want to practice that out loud in front of a mirror. It will feel squirrely, but do it anyway. So really, this is all about staying connected. Be your student's biggest fan. I know you already are, but you can continue in that, cheer them on, catch them when they fall, but to be there for them. And usually this happens through open lines of communication. Stay connected. Stay open to their experience. As often as you can, try to strike that non-judgmental stance. It can be hard. I honor that, but I think you can do it. Most importantly, I want you to trust your parenting skills and honor how your own role is changing. Some of you will go through a hard transition with this. Some of you will have some emotions to deal with that might not be easily resolved. And that's where you have to seek out your own support. So take care of yourself as you're encouraging your student to take care of themselves. I want you to encourage and support the development of relationships at college as well as the maintenance of relationships at home. Students are going to be making connections, and I hope you learn about them. I hope you learn about who's important in their life as they transition to college. And I want you to recognize that they get to maintain other relationships at home, perhaps with a younger sibling. Maybe now is the time for that younger sibling and your student to sit down and talk about how they're going to stay connected or how they're going to stay connected to a grandparent. One of the things that I think is super important, and to do it within your means, but to send care packages in actual mail. In this electronic era, I still think it's awesome to receive a greeting card in the mail or to receive a package with a favorite candy, or go ahead to the pharmacy and print out some pictures or print it out at your home computer and put a funny caption on it and mail it to them. Let them know that you're thinking about them. It's a personal point of pride, I think, when that student, especially in the res hall, they get that package, they pick it up at the desk, and they walk back to their own room. And it's like a walk of pride. It tells people, I'm cared for. I think that's an important message to share with your student. And in closing, persist in your messages of love, pride, and encouragement for your student. Say it out loud. Don't assume that they know it. I love you. I'm proud of you. You're going to do great. In conclusion, again, my name is Paula Keaton. I'm the Director at Counseling and Psychological Services. Know that we are here not only for your students, for brief counseling, for group counseling, for workshops, and whatever other kinds of support they might need, including referrals if they have a special need. Know that we're here for your student and we're here for you. We're happy to consult anytime you need us. Be well and welcome to the Niner Nation.